The story begins on a quiet evening in Los Angeles. The sun had almost set, leaving behind streaks of gold and orange in the sky. Ana de Armas had just finished a long day on set. Her body was tired, her heart heavy with unspoken worries. She was in a new country, working hard to build her career, but the pressure was constant. The expectations, the whispers, the fear of failure often kept her awake at night. She walked slowly to her car, carrying the weight of her thoughts. What she didn't know was that someone had been watching her, not in silence or judgment, but in quiet care. Keanu Reeves, who had been part of the same film project, had noticed the way her smile often faded when the cameras were off. He had seen the small moments when she stood alone, pretending to scroll through her phone so people wouldn't notice the loneliness. Keanu, who had lived through years of pain and loss, recognized the signs. He knew that sometimes the strongest people hide the deepest struggles. As she sat in her car, staring at the wheel without turning the engine, she felt a sudden knock on the window. Startled, she looked up. Keanu stood there, his expression calm, kind, and without judgment. She rolled down the window and tried to force a smile. "Hey," she said softly, almost embarrassed to be caught sitting alone. Keanu leaned down slightly, his voice gentle. "You don't look okay, Ana. Do you want to talk?" The words surprised her. Most people only asked how she was doing when they expected the usual answer, the polite lie of "I'm fine." But something about his tone, something about his eyes told her he meant it. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. Instead of leaving, Keanu opened the passenger door and sat down. He didn't rush her, didn't try to fill the silence. He just sat there, waiting. For a few minutes, Ana stared at the fading light outside, then whispered, "Sometimes I feel like I don't belong here. Like no matter how much I try, I'll never be good enough." Her voice broke slightly and she hated herself for showing weakness. But Keanu didn't judge. He simply nodded, his voice low and steady. "I know what that feels like. I've been there too. More times than I can count." She turned to him, shocked. To the world, Keanu Reeves was unshakable, a man loved by millions, but sitting next. To her now, he was just human, gentle, open, and vulnerable. "You?" she asked, her voice carrying disbelief. He smiled softly. "Yes, I've faced rejection, loss, pain. I've questioned myself. But I learned something. It's not about being good enough for others. It's about being true to yourself. When you stop chasing approval, you find peace." His words sank deep into her heart. She felt something stir, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The car grew quiet again, but this time it was not uncomfortable. The silence felt safe. Keanu looked out the window, then back at her. "Come with me," he said suddenly. Ana blinked. "Where?" He smiled, mysterious but kind. "You'll see. Trust me." Her instincts told her to say no, to retreat into her shell. But something about the calm in his voice made her nod. She started the engine, and with Keanu beside her, she drove off into the night, not knowing that this moment would soon change everything. Because sometimes the smallest choice, to trust, to open up, to say yes, becomes the spark that lights an unforgettable journey. The city lights stretched out ahead as Ana drove through Los Angeles. The streets glowed with neon signs and blurred headlights, yet inside the car there was only a soft quiet. Keanu sat calmly in the passenger seat, his presence steady, almost grounding. He didn't say much at first, but the silence felt different this time. It wasn't heavy or lonely. It was a silence that carried warmth, like sitting near a fire. "On a cold night?" Ana finally asked, her voice curious but also uncertain. "So, where are we going?" Keanu turned his head slightly, a small smile on his face. "Somewhere simple. Somewhere you can breathe." She frowned a little. You make it sound like I've been holding my breath. He looked at her, his eyes calm and kind. Maybe you have. The words stayed with her as she drove. He was right. In her heart, she knew she had been holding her breath for months, pretending everything was fine while fighting battles inside that no one could see. The pressure of success, the fear of being forgotten, the loneliness in a city where everyone seemed to wear masks. It all lived inside her. 20 minutes later, Keanu asked her to stop at a small park on the edge of the city. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't crowded. The place was quiet, with tall trees standing like silent guardians and a pond reflecting the glow of the moon. Anna stepped out of the car and felt the cool air touch her face. "Why here?" she asked softly. Keanu shrugged, gently, his voice even. "Because here, no one's watching. No cameras, no noise, no expectations, just space to be yourself." For a moment, she didn't know what to say. It seemed so simple, yet so rare. She followed him down a narrow path toward the pond. The sound of crickets filled the air, and the water shimmered under the pale light. They sat on a wooden bench, and the world around them felt miles away from Hollywood. After a long silence, Keanu spoke, his voice carrying the weight of memory. "I know how it feels to be surrounded by people and still feel alone. Years ago, I went through things that nearly broke me. I lost people I loved, and for a long time I thought I'd never heal. But I realized something. Kindness, even the smallest act of it, has the power to keep us alive." Anna turned to him, her chest tightening at the honesty in his words. "Is that why you always seem so humble? So different from others here?" He gave a small, almost shy smile. "Maybe. I don't see the point of pretending. Life is too short for masks. If we can't be real, then what are we?" Her eyes softened. She had heard stories about his pain, but hearing it directly in this quiet place felt different. It felt raw, human. Anna's voice trembled slightly as she whispered, "Sometimes I feel invisible, like no matter how much I give, it will never be enough. I wonder if people like me only for what they see on the screen, not for who I really am." Keanu leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, his eyes fixed on the water. "You're not invisible, Anna. The right people will always see you. And when they do, they'll see the truth. Not the image, not the mask, but the soul." The words struck her deeply, bringing tears to her eyes. She quickly looked away, embarrassed to cry in front of him. But Keanu, noticing her struggle, placed a hand gently on hers. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't staged. It was simple, human, full of understanding. She didn't pull away. Instead, she let the tears fall. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to break. Keanu didn't try to stop her or fix her pain. He simply sat with her, his hand steady, his silence more comforting than any speech could have been. When the tears slowed, she took a deep breath and whispered, "Thank you for this." Keanu's voice was calm, almost like a whisper carried by the wind. "You don't need to thank me. We're all human. Sometimes we just need someone to remind us of that." The night stretched on, the stars slowly filling the sky above them. And though nothing had changed in the world outside, something had shifted within Anna. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like she was fighting alone. But neither of them knew that this quiet night, this small act of kindness, would soon ripple outward. Because kindness has a way of growing, touching lives far beyond what we can see. And soon the world would hear about it in ways neither of them expected. The next morning, Anna woke up feeling different. Her eyes were tired from crying the night before, but her heart felt lighter. As she lay in bed, she thought about the bench by the pond, the silence, and Keanu's words. She could still feel The steady weight of his hand on hers, not as a gesture of pity, but as quiet proof that she wasn't as invisible as she believed. On set later that day, everything looked the same. The bright lights, the buzzing crew, the endless retakes. Yet, Anna carried something new inside her. She noticed the way people rushed around, pretending to be in control, but behind their eyes was the same exhaustion she had been carrying. For the first time, instead of hiding inside herself, she felt a pull to look outward. Keanu arrived a little later, his usual calm presence filling the room. He nodded at everyone, greeting the crew with genuine warmth, not the forced politeness most actors used. When his eyes met Anna's, there was no need for words. A quiet understanding passed between them, like a shared secret. As the day went on, a scene they were filming became unexpectedly difficult. Anna had to deliver an emotional line, but every time the director called action, her voice trembled and her emotions faltered. Whispers spread among the crew, and she felt the old fear rise again. Fear of judgment, fear of not being good. Enough. Her chest tightened. Her palms grew sweaty, and panic whispered in her mind. What if I fail right here in front of everyone? Just as she felt her strength slipping, Keanu stepped closer. He didn't interrupt or make it obvious, but as the director reset the scene, he leaned toward her and whispered so only she could hear, "Don't perform for them. Speak it like you're speaking to one person. Forget the room. Just choose. One person you trust." His voice steadied her. She nodded, her breathing slowing. When the cameras rolled again, she imagined she was only talking to him, his calm face, his patient eyes. The words flowed naturally this time, raw and unfiltered, and by the time she finished, the set was silent. The director's voice broke, the quiet. That was perfect. Applause filled the room, but it wasn't the clapping that mattered. It was the way Keanu gave her a small nod, almost hidden as if to say, "See, you had it in you all along." Later during lunch, Anna sat beside him. "How do you do it?" she asked softly. "How do you stay so calm, so steady?" Keanu thought for a moment, picking at his food before replying. "By remembering what matters. The noise, the fame, the critics, they all come and go. But the people we touch with kindness, the lives we help without asking for anything in return, that stays." She looked at him closely, realizing this was more than advice. This was the way he lived his life. In that moment, she made a silent promise to herself. She would try to live the same way. Not by chasing approval, but by choosing kindness, even in the smallest ways. As the days passed, their bond grew stronger, though neither of them spoke of it openly. It wasn't about romance, not yet. It was about two souls who had found in each other a rare thing, understanding without masks. But life has a way of testing fragile beginnings. Soon, a rumor began spreading across the set. Someone had seen Anna and Keanu leaving together that night, and whispers grew into speculation. Tabloids began circling, hungry for a story that wasn't theirs to tell. Anna felt the weight of it first, the judgmental looks, the sly comments from people who didn't know the truth. She feared this bond, this fragile kindness, would be twisted into gossip and used against her. And when the first article appeared online with pictures taken from the shadows, her chest sank. The headline was cruel, turning something pure into something scandalous. Anna stared at the screen, her hands trembling, wondering how quickly kindness could be destroyed by a world that thrived on noise. But what happened next would prove that, even in the storm of lies, truth and grace could shine brighter than anyone expected. The morning after the rumors broke, Anna sat in her trailer with the door closed, scrolling through the headlines. Her chest tightened as she read the words that painted her as someone chasing attention, someone using Keanu's kindness for her own gain. The pictures taken from the night at the park were blurred and twisted. but the story around them was cruel. She put her phone down, her hands shaking. For years, she had fought to be taken seriously, to be respected for her work. And now it felt like everything was slipping away because of one night when she had finally let her guard down. Tears burned her eyes, and for a moment, she wished she had never said yes to going with him. A soft knock came at the door. She hesitated, then opened it. Keanu stood there, calm as always, holding 2 cups of coffee. He stepped inside without a word, placed 1 cup on the table, and sat across from her. His eyes were steady, as if he could see the storm inside her. "I ruined everything," Anna whispered, her voice breaking. "They're saying things that aren't true. They're turning your kindness into something else." Keanu leaned forward, his tone quiet but firm. "Listen to me. You didn't ruin anything. Lies can't erase the truth, and the truth is, we did nothing wrong. You don't need to carry shame for something you didn't do." She shook her head. "But they won't believe that. They never believe that." For a moment, Keanu was silent. Then he said something that surprised her. "Then I'll show them." Her eyes widened. "What do you mean?" He looked at her gently. "The world feeds on gossip because no one pushes back with honesty. But I won't let them destroy you. I'll speak the truth, not through anger, not through denial, but through kindness. If they twist what happened, I'll untwist it. Not for me, but for you." Anna's throat tightened. "But they'll twist your words too. They always do." Keanu gave a small smile. "Maybe. But I've learned that silence isn't always strength. Sometimes speaking gently is stronger than letting lies win." That afternoon, during a break in filming, Keanu walked out to where the press had gathered outside the lot. Flashes exploded the moment they saw him, reporters shouting questions about his relationship with Anna. The noise was deafening, but Keanu didn't flinch. He raised a hand and slowly, the voices grew quiet. His words were calm, measured, and filled with dignity. "Last night I sat with a friend who needed someone to listen. That's all it was. Not a scandal. Not a story. Just 2 people sharing a moment of kindness. I don't think kindness should ever be turned into something ugly." The reporters shifted, their cameras clicking, but his eyes never hardened. He didn't argue, didn't accuse. Instead, he left them with a message. In this world, it's easy to judge and harder to understand. But I believe we all need more understanding. So if you write about this, write about that. Then he turned and walked away, leaving silence behind him. Inside the set, the crew who had been watching on, their phones grew quiet. Some looked down, ashamed of the whispers they had shared. Anna, watching from the corner of the lot, felt her heart ache. Not because of the rumors, but because of the grace with which he faced them. Later, when she found him sitting quietly with a script in hand, she whispered, "You didn't have to do that." He looked up at her, his expression soft. "Yes, I did. Sometimes people need a reminder that kindness isn't weakness." Anna swallowed hard, emotions flooding her chest. In that moment, she realized Keanu's act was more than just protection. It was a mirror showing her what true strength looked like, but what neither of them knew yet was that his words would not stay contained to that small group of reporters. Within hours, his message would spread across the world, reaching millions who needed to hear it. And the ripples of that moment would change not just Anna's path, but countless others. By the next morning, Keanu's words were everywhere. The clip of him standing calmly in front of flashing cameras, speaking about kindness, had spread across social media like fire. Millions of people watched it, not for gossip, but for the quiet dignity in his voice. Headlines changed their tone overnight. Instead of scandal, they wrote about his honesty. Instead of rumors, they shared his message. "Kindness is not weakness," one article quoted in bold letters. Comments poured in from people around the world, saying how his words reminded them of moments when kindness had saved them too. Anna sat in her apartment, scrolling through the posts in disbelief. She expected the storm of gossip to drown her, but instead she saw people defending her, strangers speaking up about the value of compassion. The weight on her chest lifted, replaced with something she hadn't felt in weeks: hope. When she walked onto set that day, the atmosphere was different. People greeted her warmly, their eyes softer, less judgmental. It wasn't perfect. Some still whispered, but the sharpness was gone. It was as if Keanu's words had held up a mirror, and people were forced to see themselves. During a break, Anna found him sitting under a shade tree near the lot, sipping from a paper cup. She sat beside him quietly, her heart full. "Do you realize what you've done?" she asked softly. He looked at her, his eyes calm as ever. "I just told the truth." "No," she said, shaking her head. "You reminded people of something they had forgotten. You changed the story." Keanu gave a small smile. Maybe the story needed changing. Not for us, but for everyone who feels judged when all they needed was understanding. His humility struck her again. He never claimed victory, never boasted. To him, it was simple: speak truth, live gently, and let kindness do the rest. As the days went on, the ripple of his act grew larger. Fans began writing letters, sharing how his words touched their lives. One mother wrote about how her son had been bullied at school, and after watching the video, he stood up for himself. Not with anger, but with calm courage. Another message came from a nurse, saying that she repeated Keanu's words to a frightened patient. Kindness is not weakness. Anna read some of these letters herself, tears welling up as she realized the impact. "You see," she told Keanu one evening, "you think it's just words, but people are carrying them into their own lives. You've started something." But Keanu shook his head gently. "It's not me. It's them. All I did was light a small candle. They're the ones carrying it forward." Anna looked at him, and for the first time, she understood the depth of his strength. It wasn't in being louder or stronger than others. It was in being steady when the world tried to shake him. And yet, even as hope spread, a new challenge began to rise. A powerful voice in the industry, someone who didn't like seeing Keanu and Anna praised for honesty, began working quietly to stir doubt again. Shadows moved behind the scenes, setting the stage for a test that would demand even more resilience from both of them. Because whenever light shines brighter, darkness always tries to return. The whispers in the industry grew louder again, but this time they weren't coming from strangers with cameras. A well-known producer, famous for controlling. Stories in Hollywood didn't like how Keanu's words had stolen the spotlight. To him, kindness was not marketable. Drama and scandal sold better, and he wanted to remind everyone of that. Suddenly, new rumors began appearing. Old photos of Anna were twisted into false stories. Articles questioned her dedication, her talent, even her right to stand beside actors like Keanu. Though the world had embraced kindness once, the storm returned, sharper than before. Anna felt the weight crashing down again, one night sitting alone in her apartment. She whispered into the quiet, "Maybe they're right. Maybe I'll never be enough here." Her phone buzzed and she saw a message from Keanu. "Meet me tomorrow. Don't give up. Trust me." The next day, Keanu led her not to a park, not to a quiet bench, but to a small community theater in the heart of the city. Inside, dozens of fans and ordinary people were gathered. Some had flown across states, others had taken buses, all to be there because they had been touched by his words. When Anna stepped inside, the room erupted in applause, not for her fame, not for her image, but for her humanity. People stood up sharing their own stories of struggle, of moments when kindness saved them. One young woman said, When I saw your video, I decided not to give up on myself. Another man added, You reminded me that compassion is strength. Anna listened, tears filling her eyes. She realized these people didn't see her through gossip. They saw her as someone who mattered, someone real. Keanu then stood at the center of the small stage, his voice steady. Hollywood may try to tell stories that sell, but the truth is stronger. And the truth is this: kindness can change lives. It already has. No rumor, no headline can erase that. The room fell silent, his words hanging heavy and beautiful in the air. Anna stepped forward, her voice trembling but strong. I thought I had to prove myself to this industry, but I see now what matters most isn't their approval. It's living with honesty, with humility, and with kindness. That's what lasts. The crowd rose to their feet, their applause shaking. The walls. In that moment, Anna no longer felt invisible. She felt seen, not for a role, not for a headline, but for her heart. The storm outside didn't disappear overnight. There were still critics, still voices trying to twist the truth. But from that day on, something shifted. People began carrying the message forward. Kindness became louder than gossip, stronger than lies. Anna continued her work, walking with a new kind of confidence. And whenever doubt tried to creep back, she remembered that night in the car, the bench by the pond, the hand that reminded her she wasn't alone. As for Keanu, he remained as he always was, calm, humble, steady. He didn't need the world to see him as a hero. For him, it was enough to know that his small act of kindness had lit a fire that no storm could put out. And together, they proved something simple yet powerful. In a world full of noise, the quiet strength of kindness can echo the loudest.